Hello, mighty companions. You ready to do a little way of mastery? Are you ready to do a little way of mastery?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, let's take a deep breath right now. Close your eyes for a minute. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I here? Why did I come tonight? Did I come to just deal with things the way I've always dealt with them? Have I come to hear the same old stuff that I always hear based on the same old stuff that I think I'm trying to get straightened out? Or am I ready to really hear something different? Am I really ready to go deep? I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent the Spirit, God, who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do. Because God who sent me will direct me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because Holy Spirit who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever the Holy Spirit wishes, knowing that the Holy Spirit goes there with me. I am not content. I am content to be wherever God wishes, knowing that God goes there with me. I will be healed as I let the Holy Spirit teach me to heal. I will be healed as I let the truth teach me to heal. I will be healed as I let Spirit teach me to heal. I will be healed as I let love teach me to heal. We're going to be on page 208 in the Way of Transformation. Page 208 in the Way of Transformation. And we're going to start with the sentence that says the spiritual path begins. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cover 10 minutes. And then we're going to discuss for 5 minutes. Then I'm going to cover 10 more minutes and until we go through the whole thing, as much as we can get tonight. So if you have any questions, just try to hold the questions until we get to the question period, or comment period, if at all possible. And then we will get a chance to talk about it and discuss it. So it says the spiritual path begins when for some reason something begins to whisper to you. This is not who you are. This is not why you come. You have come to heal your sense of separation from God. That's why you're here. You come to heal your sense of separation from love, your sense of separation from God. That's why you're on earth. It's to heal the sense of separation from that created us. That's why you're here for real. It's to heal your sense of separation from source. You are here because you've come to realize what the truth really is, as opposed to realizing what we were taught. And generally speaking, what we were taught was not true. So we're here to realize the truth. Egoic consciousness then begins with the shock at the moment of conception that brings your attention to be completely fixated on and as the physiological form beginning to emerge from a certain web of relationship. This begins to color your vision, color your understanding. It gives you your unique individuality in the world. You came into physiological form to emerge from a certain web of relationship. And that relationship that we dropped in here into, it colors our vision, it colors our understanding, it gives you your unique personality in the world. And as you grow, as you emerge, as you move through certain experiences, you become colored by what you have had to do to survive. Each one of us have been colored by what we've had to do to survive. You become colored by the psychic imprints of those around you. So you've been colored by everything you've had to do to make it, And he says we've been colored by the psychic imprints of those around us. So we are experiencing the psychic imprints of those around us, and we're experiencing our whole life being colored by whatever you've done to this point to survive. He says you think you're thinking your own thoughts, when what is often the case is that you are merely parroting all that has come into your computer bank, all that has come into your brain, all that is coming into your body. It's like, in other words, we think we're thinking, but all we're doing is repeating every single thing we were told was true from the time we were born. It's funny that we kind of think we're thinking our own thoughts, but if we be honest with ourselves, all we're thinking is what we were told to think. Now, it is quite true that this all began because there was a resonance between the web of relationships of the parents and of society, and where your own unique quality of consciousness was prior to birth. In this sense, karma can be said to exist. When you were born, there was a resonance between the web of relationships of your parents, the web of the relationships of your society, where your own unique quality of consciousness was prior to birth. So before you were born, you were drawn to certain parents, certain societies, and a certain unique kind of consciousness. He said prior to birth, which I think is an interesting statement. Prior, it's almost like you dived into the pool of your own resonance, psychic consciousness, and your own mind. Karma simply means action, the effect of, so that when you drop a pebble in the pool, you create a certain ripple. As long as you continue that ripple by dropping the same pebble in the pond, you get the same results. And part of those results is the need to be identified with only this vibrational field of energy called physicality. So we are now identified with a certain vibrational field that we call being physical. So being physical is a vibrational field. And so until you decide to change the momentum of the ripples you are creating in the depth of your mind, you cannot begin to ascend from this dimension. We cannot ascend to a dimension greater than this dimension until we change the momentum of the thoughts that we're dropping into this pond. When I change my thoughts, I change my vibration, then I go to another level. The desire to do so is always within you. In other words, that's why people are always trying to acquire, because they think if they can acquire something different, then they're going to satisfy that need we have to really get in touch with who we really are. We think if we get something in the world, that's going to really satisfy us, and we can tend to overlook that nothing we ever do in the world completely satisfies us. And we don't realize that that's because nothing that we're doing in the world is really a reflection of who we really are. So the Course then says that is, the desire to do so is always within you, to go beyond where you are right now. That is, it may be dormant, but the desire to know God must necessarily be within each soul, since God is your reality. So you have fallen asleep. You've fallen asleep, and at some point there comes the urge to awaken. And when your urge to wake up happens, I'm hold up to the time.
I'm just a little distracted by the music.
Well, you're going to proceed, okay? Because I want to play music. Okay. Until you have fallen asleep, and at some point there comes the urge to awaken. And when it comes, it's unmistakable. The fireworks may not occur, but a shift happens within your being, and you know that you can never return to the way it was. So some people, the fireworks have not gone off yet. And so the shift hasn't happened in their being. But some people like me, and like hopefully you, we've come to that point that the need to wake up is unmistakable. We can't go any further in the way that we've gone. We can't be half-assed about our spiritual growth and our spiritual truth. It can't be a hobby to us. It can't be something that you drop in on every now and then when you don't have something else to do. It can't be no longer just how can I get more power, money, fame, and physical pleasure. When your desire to wake up happens, it's unmistakable, and you can't help yourself. You have to move forward. So take a breath for just a minute. I'll say it again. You have fallen asleep, and at some point there comes the urge to awaken. And when that urge to awaken comes, the urge to awaken is unmistakable. The fireworks may not occur, but a shift happens within your being. And you know that you can never return to the way that it was. You have fallen asleep. And at some point there comes the urge to awaken. And when that urge to awaken comes, it is unmistakable. The fireworks may not occur, but a shift happens within your own being. And you know that you can never return to the way it was. You can never again pretend that life is only what you see through your senses. You can never pretend that life is only what you see through your senses. You can never pretend that life is only what you see in your senses. You know there's something beyond your senses, and you know you can never pretend that life is just what you've been taught and what you perceive in your senses. Any questions, any comments about any of that? Yes.
Can one effort too much? I feel like I'm almost a little graspy about it right now.
No, you can't effort too much.
Okay.
You can't effort too much. You can't ever put too much energy and attention into loving yourself or awakening to who you are, getting in touch with your power and joining with God. You know, it's like, no. And the part that feels weary, the Course says that the part of us that feels weary, we got empty seats here, here, here in the circle. Come on, join us in the circle. Come on, join us in the circle. Be a part of the circle. Thank you. Thank you so much. You just add another cute face to the circle. Thank you very much. You know. Okay. It's the ego that's become weary, not you. Your ego is becoming weary because you're not letting up on it. And so you're beginning to change your mind and you're beginning to wake up and it's beginning to lose its foundation in your experience. So what you do when you feel weary is you do more. The ego wants you to believe that if your ego can get you to feel weary enough to stop, then it will just increase things that make you feel weary so you'll continue to not do it. So you need to go beyond your ego the most when you're most upset or when you're most uncomfortable or when you feel the most lack of peace. That's when you go at it harder. That way you teach your ego that every time it messes with you, that you're going to go deeper toward the love that you are. And when you teach your ego that, it stops messing with you because it doesn't want you to go to the truth. So the smartest thing you can do when you're upset or you feel weary or any of that kind of thing is to dive deeper into it instead of less. Because you never want to convince your ego that all it has to do is give you a little hard time and then you're through with it and you're done. Because then it'll create more crisis, more challenges, more upsetting circumstances because you've already shown that part of you that you give up the minute that it gives you any kind of pressure. And that's what the average person does. Is that as soon as they start to get breakthrough, which means their ego starts to feel threatened, then they have a little bit of a challenge come up. They say the challenge didn't really start until I started studying this stuff. And then they get away from that stuff. And then the ego says, oh, I just give you more hell then, because I see that all it takes is a little pressure and you gone. And then you're right back out here trying to make it like everybody else, which will be coming to the ego because the ego will believe that finally you've given it the environment again that it knows its way around, which is victimhood, blaming, and upset. So your ego loves it when you stop. And this stuff that we're doing is advanced teaching and learning. It's not for everybody right now. That's why I don't even care about how many people come to my class anymore. Because I am not going to teach anything but really deep truth now. And if whoever can't handle it, that's okay, they're innocent. But I got to go deeper in my growth. And I can't go deeper in my growth unless I join with other people who want to go deeper in their growth. And that's going to call for perseverance, determination, patience, commitment, and dedication. I don't really want the people who come to the truth as a hobby and it's entertainment. Frankly, I would prefer they didn't come to my class. because you can't go nowhere with them. But people like you that's been sticking around for a while saying, let's go deep, let's hear this, we can make some real breakthrough. We can really go somewhere. We can really get out of the hell of the fearful separated world. So we really are mighty companions. That's not just a saying. We really are mighty companions. And that's going to happen in small groups. The level that we're going to is not going to happen in big groups. It's going to happen in small groups. That's what the Holy Spirit told me. You just want to get in the trust level, Purdy. Because what you're going to go is you're going to start working very deeply with small groups of people. I'm going to take care of you. But you're going deep now. And everybody ain't ready for that. So that's okay. That's okay now. As long as you keep on feeding me, I'm all right. Keep on going. So here we go. Any questions? Any other question about anything I've said so far? What about the pebble being dropped into the pool? Are you creating the same ripples that you've always created? Or are you ready to change momentum and have something really different happen?
Keep doing the same thing over and over, get the same result. What do you call it?
That's what they call insanity. Is that I'm going to keep doing the same thing, but I think I'm going to get a brand new result. Anybody else? Any questions, comments? Going once. Going twice. So, to those of us who are ready to go further. Now the soul begins to speak. The connection that was once lost begins to be reestablished. That's what's happening right now. The connection between us and our soul and our higher consciousness was never really lost. We just forgot our connection to God, and we've been suppressing our connection to Source. Now, so your connection to Source became the background instead of the foreground, which I'm going to focus on everything in the outer world, and when I get everything in the outer world handled, then I'm going to do my spiritual practice. See, the spiritual practice is the background, and the world becomes the foreground. And then it says, then this connection, your soul begins to whisper in the depth of your being. Your soul comes to you first in the form of dreams. My spiritual path started 2 months after my father made his transition. When I was 23, he came to me in a dream. He told me I couldn't come where he was, but he was totally and completely okay. But there was some type of an awakening that was getting ready to happen, and that I had work to do here. So the easiest way to communicate with higher beings is through your dreams, because your dreams are like the meeting place between the two dimensions and between any other dimensions. Because your dreams are more like your natural environment than your physical world is. It's really more like our dream. Like in the dream, you can go anywhere, you can do anything, you can bilocate, you can reappear, you can change things in an instant, you can fly. Our dreams really are more like our reality. And this is more like the dream, because this is where we think we're limited to physicality. You begin to notice books that you never noticed before. You might wander into the spiritual section of the bookstore. That's where I got introduced to the Course in Miracles. I was in a bookstore called the Learning Center, and I met this young lady, and she said, have you heard of this book called the Course in Miracles? And so literally, I wandered into the spiritual section of a bookstore. I've had people tell me that the books that they had studied and the path that they studied, that the book fell off the shelf, or it hit them on the head, or they got the book and it was on the book case for 2 or 3 years before they actually started to look at it. He says, not even understanding would even compel you to go to that section of the bookstore. You picked it up. Then he says, there you pick up a copy of this book, or the Course in Miracles, or some other such book that begins to trigger within you what? A thirst and a longing. First time I was introduced to the Course in Miracles, I wasn't interested in it at all. I was into metaphysics, and I didn't like the Christian terminology, and I didn't understand what I read when I looked at it. And I had all kinds of resistance. 3 years later, when I was invited to go to a Course in Miracles study group, I was ready. It blew my mind, and I couldn't put the book down for a month, and I read the whole text in 1 month, and then started a study group a month later, and have been doing a study group of some type since January 1981. I have not had 3 months that I have not taught the Course since January 1981. Ever. And so when it's, in other words, either you're ready or you're not. So you can't get your friends ready before they're not. You can't get your partners ready before they're not. You can't get your children ready before they're not. You can't get anybody ready before they're not. Right? Okay. We all popcorn in the same skillet, and everybody's gonna pop, but they never all pop at the same time. Right? Right. So we are going to pop, and we are popping. We are popping now. And but the good part is that with God's popcorn, there are no unpopped kernels. We all pop. You know, the world teaches you that everybody doesn't make it. Some people are going to make it to heaven, and some people are not going to make it to heaven. The truth teaches everybody makes it, or else God wouldn't be real. There can't be anybody that can be beyond God's ability to heal. There can't be anyone, no one, nobody. I don't care how evil they seem to be. Oh, no wonder they say you don't need to believe these ideas, you don't need to accept these ideas, you don't need to recognize some of these ideas you actively resist. Because there are people, like right now, there's all that energy all around Trayvon Martin and the verdict around that. And that's another opportunity to recognize the truth. There's another opportunity to ask for another way to look at it. That's another opportunity to say, what's the gift in this? What's the lesson in this? What is it that we need to learn? And people say, well, what is the lesson we need to learn? To teach only love and demonstrate only love. That's the lesson that we need to learn. And one day we're gonna get it, because when you accept the truth in your own mind, then you will see that truth extend out into your world in a way that'll blow your mind, and you will literally start to see all the so-called pain and fear of the world disappear, is what the truth teaches. And people go, I don't see how that can happen. Man, well, that's because everybody's waiting for you. Because when you change your mind, then everything is going to change. That's why you haven't seen it yet, because you're waiting for everybody else to change but you. And I'll go, wow, Holy Spirit, you know. And so it says, and when he says that a friend suddenly invites you to come to a workshop, the kind you've never been to before, yet when you go, something triggers you, something touches you, something begins to awaken. You may not notice it, but it actually triggers a physiological state within the body, within the chakra or energy system. The heart begins to stir in its slumber, and the mind thirsts for knowledge, which is a knowledge unlike any that it has gathered in its identification with the egoic consciousness. So now all of a sudden, I'm hungry for a knowledge that the world doesn't teach. I'm hungry for a knowledge that the world doesn't preach. I'm hungry for a knowledge that I don't see the world teaching. Now, are you identifying with any of this? The longing to awaken has come. From this moment, though, you do not understand it. You begin to attract, slowly at first, perhaps stumbling a bit now and then. You start to attract to you exactly those situations that will keep prodding you to look deeper. A meditation teacher comes. A prayer group comes that you feel called to join. You begin the process of study, and a new question is emerging. No longer is the question, how can I survive? When you start to wake up spiritually, no longer is the question, how can I make money? No longer is the question, how can I do all these things? A new question emerges in your mind when you become spiritually awakening. And that question is, what in the heck am I? What am I becomes more important than how I can make some money. How can I survive? When am I going to find my soulmate? When am I going to get the perfect career? All of those become secondary to who am I really? What am I really? He says there may be many forms to the question, but the question remains the same. Who am I? What am I? From where have I come? What is life? What is God? God. I love that. God. Just question mark. God. I love how the Course in Miracles made me aware that I didn't believe in God. I was like saying like everybody else, do you believe in God? Yes. Do you believe in God? Yes. Do you believe in God? And everything that the Course would share about how a person would be if they believed in God, I flunked it. No fear about anything, ever. No fear of death. Absolutely no guilt about anything. Never have a loss of peace ever, because you know you're safe, and you know you're loved. You're not worried about how you're going to eat tomorrow. You're not worried about how you're going to be clothed. You're certainly not seeking to get somebody to be in a relationship with you because you trust that who you need will show up at the right time. Never have to have any kind of illness, any kind of lack. Your body doesn't age. How many of y'all believe in God? Based on any of the things I just said. Be honest.
I believe in a theory.
Right.
God.
Thank you.
I
Thank
want to
you.
believe in
I want to believe in God, which is exactly what it says. That there are only two kinds of minds: those who are love or won't love, those who know God and those who want to know God. And if you know you don't, then we got somewhere we can start. But if you're pretending that you do, but nothing's ever going the way that brings you any joy, it's going to make you believe that there is no God. It's going to make you think that your faith has no power. And what it teaches us is that no, there's just a certain way that you communicate and recognize the laws of God. And they're not the ways that we were taught. And so it looks like God isn't real because the God that we were taught doesn't exist.
Well, in the course of we
Hold hold a second. Just hold a second. Okay. These questions begin to stir in the mind. Often they first make their appearance in some form around the age of 10 or 12, and you enter into a stage of life that is your first taste of individuation, just like when a child was born and they began to sense that it was other than the mother's body. At around the age 10 to 12, you begin to sense that you are other than your mother and father. That's why parents first start to have a trip with their kids, those of you who are playing the role of parents. That there is something that wants to think for itself. Your child wants to be for itself. And often these questions will begin to come. That is the first stirring. Usually those questions are not attended to. There is much too much else to do. You still need to learn to think. You still need to learn to drive a car. You still need to learn how to balance the checkbook. Later, these questions occur again, generally in the early to mid-20s. But again, the momentum is to become established as a physiological being. And so the questions, who am I, what's God, they are suppressed into the 30s. And most definitely by the 40s, these questions begin to press upon the consciousness. That's why usually people who start to get serious about their spiritual path are usually over 30. They're usually always over 30. And then the older you get, the more you'll see the sincereness and the seriousness. Because by the time you're in your 40s, that's when you first begin to recognize that it didn't turn out the way you thought it was. It's in 40s that people it's in the 40s that people get their first reality check. Mm-hmm. Oh, I was going to be the best this, and I was going to be a chain this, and I was going to have a six-figure that, and I was going to. In your 40s, you get a little behind schedule in terms of what it is that I said that was going to happen to me. Anybody feel me? Yeah. And then we call it the midlife crisis. You know, it's the midlife crisis when you, at that moment, there's a feeling of, I need to get it all together if I'm ever going to get it together. But we don't realize that what's really happening is that inner question of who am I, what is God, where did I come from? Those questions are beginning to bubble to the surface because either you've accomplished what you thought you wanted to accomplish then and are not really truly satisfied, or you haven't accomplished it at all. Either way it goes, you get that it's not what you thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. I was talking to a good friend of mine who was one of the speakers at the retreat that I did last weekend, and he was talking about how he had a client, that was very, very wealthy, like a billionaire, and he still was worried about money, like losing his money, or what was going to happen to his money. Just like the people who don't have it always are worried about it. So we get those kind of proofs all the time, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. There's still a part of me that tells me I'm different. That though if I had $1 billion, I'd be different. Or if I had the relationship, I'd be different than these other people who have relationships and not happy. That if I had the ideal weight, then your ego is so insidious because it constantly dangles that carrot in front of you of the very next thing that changes, then you're going to be happy. So he says, you know how to make money. He says, by the time you're in your 40s, you know how to make money. You know how to balance a checkbook. You've done these things in the world. You've had sex. You've had baked cakes. You've had birthday parties. You've gotten drunk. You've done it all. But something else is gnawing within you. This is also a point of great challenge. You ask yourself, what will I be committed to? What am I going to really be committed to? Am I going to be committed to love or fear? Am I going to let my fears run me? Will the very principles that I have identified myself with and have utilized to ensure my survival by my ordering of life, will these things become more important than the realizing the self, awakening to the Christ within? In other words, all the things that I'm trying to do in the world, are they still going to be more important than my own self-realization, my own inner peace, my own awakening, and my own fulfillment? Am I still going to keep running the race that everybody else is running, or am I going to change my mind and now decide to get in touch with where my power and my happiness really comes from? Boom! Now, questions, comments?
You asked who believes in God.
Mhm.
The first thing I get asked, is your definition of God. My definition of God is we're God, and I believe in that. I don't believe there's some guy sitting up on a cloud.
No, I didn't say that. Right, I hear what you're saying. I just said, do you have absolutely no fear, absolutely no guilt, absolutely know yourself as one with me, absolutely have complete sense of freedom, know that you don't die, know that you have eternal life, know that you're all that is. I'm just saying, based on what we're studying about what the higher power is, I didn't pass that test. I realize now that when I say stuff like I'm God, I really don't know that that's true. Because if I really knew that that was true, then I would know you as me, me as you. I would love you as much as I love myself. I would have I'm going to go back to, let's keep it the basics. There would not be 1 ounce of fear in me about anything at all. I would not be worried about anything, period, if I really knew I was sustained by God. So I don't feel like, personally, I don't feel like it's putting myself down by saying I don't believe in God. What I believe it's doing is setting me up so that I can really get rid of the blocks to really knowing my relationship with God. Because I think when you think you know, it shuts you off from information, it shuts you off from knowledge, and it shuts you off from guidance. But there was a time in my own personal spiritual growth, right at the very beginning, when I was into positive thinking, then that's what you did. You always said, I love everybody. I'm an infinite being. And that is true. That is nothing. You are God. I would not argue with you about that at all. But do I realize it? That's two different things. Do I realize it? No. So I am open to getting rid of the blocks to the realization that I'm one with God, that I'm one with you. So you're right. You are God.
And you're right too.
Yeah, we are God. Yeah. But I'm just fessing up to the fact that I don't pass the test of no fear. And I still identify with my body. I don't know myself as an unlimited being. I'm being reminded that I'm an unlimited being who has forgotten that I'm an unlimited being, who needs to get rid of the blocks that keep him from knowing he's an unlimited being. Because once I know I'm an unlimited being, then I can then manifest the characteristics and talents of an unlimited being. It's like if you got hit in the head and you forgot that you were a talented musician, you would have to go to music school and take music lessons again to learn how to play. But if you hit your head again and all of a sudden remember that you could play saxophone, you would just start playing saxophone. You wouldn't take another lesson. You just remember you already knew how to. That's us. When we remember who we are, we'll instantly go back to our experience as being creators, and there won't be any lacking in the level, and we'll be able to do all the infinite powerful things that we're hearing about in these books. But it's good to know that we have these abilities, but we just have amnesia. And then we're hanging out with other people with amnesia. And all of us with amnesia have made up our own thought system, our own play, our own rules. We know they aren't true. Why? Because nobody's freaking happy. The Course says that's how you can tell when you're incorrectly perceiving anything. You have no fulfillment. You have no joy. You have no sense of safety. So that's how I know what the world teaches is not true. There's too much unhappiness in the world for the world to be teaching us anything that's true. But the challenge is the world doesn't change because everybody thinks it's everybody else's fault. And that their truth is the truth. And if everybody else thought like them, then everything would be okay, right? Isn't that basically the way the world thinks?
Yeah.
that it's everybody else's fault. I'm okay. If you, it was so interesting when I used to do door-to-door sales. I would go into all these homes, and 99% of them were nice people, really cool people. Very seldom would you meet. Same thing, I was working for the phone company. Went to hundreds of homes a week. In 5 years of doing that, I can't think of 5 instances that I met really crummy acting people. But you got all these nice people thinking everybody else is the problem because they're looking at TV and reading the news, which magnifies a very small percentage of people that's actually doing anything, and then makes us scared to go outside. If we read the paper tomorrow and they said 50 people died last night from murder, it would be like everybody would be freaking out that they heard 50 people died in Denver last night. Do you know there are over 1 million people in this area? Do you know what percentage 50 people is relative to 1 million? It's nothing. It's practically nothing. And we don't even hear about 5 murders in a night. But all of us are walking around terrified of getting mugged because, like the Course says, the ego is the part of the mind that keeps separation going through fear. And so we use fear to keep us separate from each other. And so when you are ready to let go of your fear, every part of you that believes that fear is good is going to do everything it can to convince you that you are leaving yourself defenseless by not attacking.
By not staying in fear.
And by not staying in fear. And so we form relationships to either keep us in fear or help us release fear. And that's what the Course calls a holy relationship, which is a relationship that you're merely using to get past fear, or a special relationship, which is a relationship that says that you're just making fear real. And so we think that holy has something to do with whether it's monogamous, open, polyamorous, and all. He said, that's just form. That don't mean nothing. That's something bodies do. If you didn't have no body, you wouldn't even be thinking about that. He says, but what really makes it holy is how much is it alleviating fear, not whether or not is you going to be with 2 people or 200 people. You know, that has nothing to do with holy, or you're not super sacred because you're only doing it with one person. You can be with one person and treat them like crap. You know, being with one person doesn't necessarily mean you know how to do relationships any more than being with 50 mean that you do. You know, except that you're dealing with 50, you might have just a little bit more masochistic attitude. You know, I can't think of anything worse than having 50 girlfriends that are unconscious, all wanting me to make them feel special, with rules and scripts and bargains. So I think the simplicity of one relationship is its greatest appeal, more than anything, if you don't really know how to love yet. At least it's just one person you're dealing with, you know. But that's just, you know. All right. I take advantage of the discussion period. Nobody else does. So go ahead. Yes.
This is in relation to, I feel like what you're saying. When I started getting closer to being, I'm not there yet, I don't think. When you say, do you believe in God? Are you completely fearless? You know, not yet, but I'm closer than I was.
Yes.
What I did was very small. People would say to me, small baby steps, Heather.
That's right.
Because God talks to us, gives us guidance, right? So we're meant to listen. And so when you say trust yourself, listen to yourself, if that's God. So if you're at a stoplight and it says, you know, or you're approaching an intersection, say, and you know every day you take a right to go to work,
mm-hmm.
but you get this little hit or whatever that says, today take a left.
Mm-hmm.
And then today take a left. It's kind of like that. It's kind of just like take a left, you know, just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But then your mind starts going, ooh, but I only have 13 minutes before I have to clock in.
Mm-hmm.
If I take a left, you know. So that's what I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to stop being so obsessive about having to do everything the correct way, and I'm going to start listening, you know. Mm-hmm. And then when I finally listened to something that I thought had to be wrong, I was like, whoa, you know, that can't be right. I did it anyway just because I was going to prove to myself that I was going to listen. And it changed my life in a wonderful way. And so I think that once we start doing that and realizing that those little things, that when we hear them, when God speaks to us, then you go, oh, it's not so scary. God has got our back, and He's talking to us, and He's trying to tell, or God, it, she, he,
Whatever.
whichever, you know, trying to tell us, you know, trying to guide us, and if we listen, we will have anything we need, and everything will be better and better.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
And what we need to learn is how to tell the difference between the two voices. See, that's what spiritual practice is for.
Yeah.
It teaches you how to tell the difference between you telling yourself something. Like you decide you want to do something, then you say God told you to do it.
Well,
Between that and it really is the voice for truth that's guiding you.
Yeah.
You know, because when I really want to do something, I twist it. And, now I go, God was the one that told me to do this. You know what I'm saying? And then the course says, how do you know when it was your ego that you listened to? He says, well, that's easy. You're not satisfied with how it turns out. And anything that you're not satisfied with how it turns out, that's not something that's not something that's a reflection of you listening to the voice for truth. It's just that simple. And that's what drives the ego crazy. But a lot of times you don't find it out until the back end.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a way to find it out from the front end, which simply is this. If you're looking for that thing to make you happy, you know it's your ego.
What?
If you're looking for whatever it is you're making up outside of yourself to make you happy, you know it's your ego. That's how you know it's not God. Because you're making your happiness dependent on something outside of you. And that's how you know it's not God. Because nothing that comes from God makes your happiness dependent on anything outside of you. But can it use everything outside of you to bring you to the awareness of God? Yes. But it's never God sending you outside of yourself for happiness. Even if God does, according to what we're learning, it's saying you're doing it from the perspective that you're only interacting with yourself. You're not even doing it from the perspective that you're going out. In other words, if you really are conscious and you're saying you want a relationship, you're really saying you want a relationship with yourself. That you want a relationship with somebody that's really not another aspect of yourself. That's different from me wanting somebody else out there. It's different from me saying I want to join with that which is a part of myself that I don't recognize as a part of myself, but I want to see you as part of myself. I'm not going outside of myself then. If I'm saying I'm going to join with you all, I'm not going outside of myself if I see you as myself. But if I don't see you as myself, I'm trying to go outside of myself. And it's not going to make me happy. Not the kind of happiness that truth is talking about. Maybe the kind of happiness that the ego is talking about for a little while. But we're talking about the real deal. We're talking about the happiness that doesn't end. The happiness that doesn't end. The happiness that isn't temporary. That's what we're talking about. Not the kind that you feel good today, I went to the movie and it was, whoa, it was wonderful, and then this morning you're throwing something at each other. We're not talking about the level of love that we do, that temporary crap that's up and down, in and out. We're talking about something beyond that. Something that can't be shaken. Something that you can't lose. I want what I can't lose. I'm not interested in anymore this ego love that's based on how I behave. Forget it. I'm not looking for that. That's not real. That's not real, but I might need to have that kind of love until I get to the kind that's real. I need to have some agreements till I get to the kind that's real. So I'm not saying you wouldn't have agreements and you wouldn't get to that kind of stuff, but don't fool yourself into thinking that that's real love. Because real love does not have any conditions. It's not based on behavior. I'm not going to love my child unless they behave. Any parent will tell you that they love their child regardless of how their child behaves, and they're trying to help their child behave right. It's not that conditional if it's real love, but we do that in our relationships. Anybody else before I go further? Mm-hmm.
I feel like that definition of God is extreme.
Good. Good. I'm glad it's extreme. That's great. You want it extreme. You want it so extreme that you know you can't do it by yourself. So extreme that you can't even imagine how you'd be able to have no fear, no guilt, no you can't die. Because that's what the truth says is the problem. Is that we compromise. We try to make it something that we can conceive of, and it never is something we can conceive of. That's what makes it God. It's beyond what we can conceive of. So it's good that seems extreme. We need to go for extreme. But to get to extreme, we have limits that we use to get there. So it's not asking us to sacrifice anything. Anytime you think anything that I'm saying means you have to sacrifice anything other than your fear, then you're misperceiving me. That's how you can tell when you're misperceiving me. Because the truth says that the only thing it's asking us to sacrifice is fear and guilt. It's asking us to be willing to lose our fear of guilt. It's not saying give up your physical dreams. It's just saying there is more. There is a whole lot more. And you deserve that. You deserve to be loved in a way that's unconditional. That you are loved no matter what. You are helped no matter what. You are supported no matter what. You are nurtured no matter what. In your darkest hour, in your deepest insanity, that something loves you so much that it would help you and it would take you past that. Our love is pathetic. We'll let starving people die right under us and walk right past them. Our love is not the deal. And then we feel guilty about it, so then we'll defend why we don't do it. And that's not even the issue. The issue is to say, I want to get past any limited conceptions of love that I have. And I can't do it alone. I can't go any further alone. I don't want to go any further alone. You can't do it alone. You can't do what we're trying to do now alone. Do you know that? We've gone as far as we can go with an autonomous perception. It won't work anymore for the next level of consciousness. It will not work. That idea of you're going to do it on your own by yourself, you can just forget it. It ain't going to happen to go to the next level of consciousness that we're going to. It won't. And the ego is the part of us that believes in autonomy and self-sufficiency. So it hates it when we talk like this. It was not your ego that brought you here this evening. You better darn sure believe that. How do you know that you got a Christ self? You sitting in that chair. Because your ego would never bring you to a class like this. Ever. Period. Except to scare you. Now if you hate it, it'll bring you here to hate it. And it'll bring you here to feel frustrated. And it'll bring you here to feel confused. Because it knows you're going to leave weary. And you're going to leave mad. And you're going to leave disoriented. Well, the ego can't wait to get you through the door. But if you were to go, I know there's a part of me that's going to feel that way because I've already been told there's a part of me that's going to feel that way, and I'm going to let it feel that way and then come anyway and listen anyway. Now you're going beyond your ego. That's what going beyond your ego means. I know I got one, but I'm still going to do what I know I need to do. I know I feel mad, but I'm still coming. I know I feel frustrated, but I'm still coming. And not just to me, but anywhere. I'm not trying to make people come here if they don't want to come here. But y'all get what I mean. Okay? Because you're strong, you're powerful, you're old moldy souls. That's why you're here.
Old moldy souls.
Yeah. People just dropping into the pond for the first time are not interested in this. It's like trying to get a 12-year-old to all of a sudden want to be in something like this. He's too busy trying to learn how to drive a car. Okay, let's go on then. If y'all don't have nothing else you want to say. Thank you for coming. Thank you for wanting to hear something different. I really appreciate that. Because there's so many other things you can be doing to forget who you are right now. And maybe enjoying it a whole lot more. The next section is called Dismantling the Blocks to Spirit. Oh, that sounds good. For you see, awakening requires a dismantling of the structures of consciousness. A what? Dismantling of the structures of consciousness. How? By which you have been ordering your perceptions of the third dimension. So you have to dismantle the structures of your consciousness by which you've been ordering the way you see things. Ultimately, to truly awaken completely requires the dismantling of very subtle, deeply embedded patterns of perception that were already making up the soul prior to your incarnation in this life. Wow, I'm going to say that again, okay? People ask what happens after you leave this life, okay? Based on what we just heard, the only thing you take with you is your consciousness, right? And so if the only thing you take with you is your consciousness, sure, you don't take your house and don't take your car, right? So the only thing you take is your consciousness, and then your consciousness creates your reality. Then what you're going to do is you're going to create a perception again of whatever your consciousness was when you left your body. Doesn't that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so he's saying, so you already had the consciousness you have before you were born, because it was the consciousness you had before you were born that projected you into here. Mm-hmm. So it's really the consciousness you had created the world you were born into. And so whatever that consciousness was that created the thing you were born into, that consciousness has to be dismantled. That consciousness has to be undone. Does that make sense to everybody? I'll say it again. If your consciousness creates your reality, then the reality you were born in and live in now is your consciousness. So your consciousness that's creating the reality has to be dismantled. The way of thinking that you're using has to be dismantled. Now, what is the problem with that? The problem with that is that I identify with the way I think. I identify with the way I believe. So to the part of me that believes I'm this, you sound like you're trying to destroy me. So you really feel like somebody's trying to destroy you when they start to dismantle the way you believe. Yeah. That's why people hang on to their beliefs so strong, because that's who they think they are. Like, you really believe, you may really believe you are a woman, and I might really believe I'm a man, and that's really what we believe. And we'll go, well, women think like this. Or we'll go stuff like, well, men think like this. And it's always so funny. Well, a woman would never do blah, blah. I've met so many women who did things with me that women never did. And that women never supposed to do. And men who do things that men are never supposed to do. It's just so clear to me that we make up beliefs and then we project them and then we generalize it and say everybody's like that, when it's not true at all. If you believe that there's only a certain kind of a man, that's the kind of man you're going to see. If I believe there's only a certain kind of woman, then that's the only kind of woman I'm going to see. Right? So we are not our beliefs. We perceive our beliefs. We see our beliefs. We experience our beliefs, but we aren't our beliefs. You have to really watch it with parenthood. I am a father. I am a mother. You are not a father. You are not a mother. You are the holy child of God. You are infinite spirit playing the role of mother, playing the role of father. But you didn't create your children. Wow. That's deep. You're never in a relationship in a way with anybody. You're just in a relationship with yourself, with somebody. I'm in a relationship with myself with you. I'm in a relationship with myself with you. I'm in a relationship with myself with you. So everything that I'm experiencing is the relationship I'm having with myself. Woo! Woo! So everybody's giving me the relationship I'm having with myself. Woo! If I'm really loving myself, for real, I'm going to be surrounded by people who are loving me. It can't be any other way. So that's the gift of being with a really crappy person. They really help you see how you feel about yourself. And being with a really cool person in your projection, you're still seeing how you feel about yourself. So there may be more people you have cool relationships with now than people you have challenging relationships with. It used to be, most of the people were challenging, and you had one or two friends that y'all held on to each other for dear life. Now you can find yourself surrounded by so many loving people that you can't even get around to all of them, and every now and then you run into the Terminator. Which I got an email that a person was watching my class, because I mentioned that in the when I went to the retreat about the Terminator, and I got an email today, and in the email the person that had been watching a lot of my videos, and she said, I don't know if you remember, but 9 months ago on a video, you had several people in white bodies in your class call you the N-word. And I remember that class. He said, and you said you wanted to do that because if that word came up, you wanted to be able to make it not mean anything to you. And she said, isn't it a trip?
Oh my God.
To think 9 months later you actually had that experience? Do you think that's an accident? Don't you see how I created that? That's true about everything that's happening to me. Not just that. Everything that's happening to me, I'm creating it. All of it. Every ounce of it. Every bit of it. Whew. Whew. The spirit becomes less and less subtle with you the longer you do this. It becomes more and more obvious. So, are you a little bit more okay with the extreme nature of God and why it seems kind of extreme? And it's okay. That's what's so cool. However you feel about it is great. But keep in mind that we are being asked to conceive of love at a level beyond what we normally conceive of, and that's what creates our growth.
Well, I feel something that helps me And it's when I say, you know, like, please show me better than I can imagine.
There you go.
Because my imagination is limited.
That's right. If you're smart, that's what you always do. You say, what would it take for me to have this in ways beyond my wildest imagination? What would it take to get the solution to this beyond my wildest imagination?
Right.
You know, you always want to ask for it beyond your wildest imagination. You don't want to be limited to your highest thought.
Right.
You know, at least I don't. You know, but I used to think that was.
It depends on how high I feel my thinking is at that time.
Right,
if
right,
if I really feel in alignment or not.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. Thank you. It says now. Check out. It says that your perceptions come from what was already in your soul prior to your incarnation in this life. So then the slate must be wiped clean, so that all that remains is the reality of spirit. That means with no filament or trace of your egoic consciousness left. So what's happening then, if we were to picture a giant chalkboard, what the Holy Spirit is doing is what? Erasing it. Now the chalkboard exists. Now I want you to think about that. The chalkboard exists. It's the writing on the chalkboard that's the illusion. So the reality exists, but what you're writing on the reality doesn't. And so what we're trying to get to is the chalkboard behind what we've written on it. And then he says, then let the Holy Spirit in you, which simply means the part of you that really loves you, that really does love you. He says, let that part of you write on the chalkboard. Let that part of you create the perceptions you see. Not the you that's afraid and weary and concerned. He says that part of you should not be in control of your life because they don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. But that's the part I listen to the most. The part that's trying to figure out what to do tomorrow, what's going to happen next week, my plan. The part that's making up my plan. They don't really know what's going to happen. That's my guide. That's my ego. Anybody else tend to listen to the part that's making up as you go along? I bet you got a plan for what you're going to do tomorrow, tonight, next week. But we all got all these plans. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's our ego. Unless you're carrying out a plan of God. If you're carrying out a plan of God, he says the way you can tell if God's plan is that you are able to do what you're being asked to do, and you're able to do it now. And it brings you peace. You're experiencing peace. So God would never ask you to do something that you're not willing to do and able to do. The ego does. I went, okay, thanks for letting me know how to tell the difference. You know, God's plan for me to be here, how I know that? I'm here. I was able to be here, and I had no problems getting here, and it was easy for me to be here, and I'm here. He says, how do you feel about having your slate wiped clean? Throw it open for questions and comments from everybody.
You were saying that spirit becomes more obvious as we go on, and I feel like my ego is becoming more subtle but sneaky.
Yes, it does. It does, exactly. Exactly. But the way it can't fool you is by how you feel. It can say anything, but in the end, if you're not feeling peace, then you know your ego is in charge of your perception. If you were really seeing everything, of course it's saying if you were really seeing everything clearly, you would never be upset about anything that happens in the world. None of it. Mm-hmm. Not any of it would upset you if you had Christ's vision. Because you would know it's not the ultimate reality, that it's not ultimately the truth. I don't go to therapy about something I did in my dream last night. Mm-hmm. I don't go to the doctor because I had a stomach ache in my dream last night. Mm-hmm. Right? Once you realize it's a dream, you just forget about it. You don't care how intense the dream was, don't you just forget about it?
You're going to do the same thing with this one.
Even though it seems so important to you right now, your children, your relationship, your job, your car, your house, you can wake up and go, God, I just dreamed about this black dude named Earl Purdy. Man, that was really fun. And that's it. But we're so attached to it now because we think we are it. So it's even frightening to hear something like that. Like you could just forget it. You know, but you're going to forget this. The Course says that so many times, you're just going to forget it. You're going to have an experience, I'm going to change it into something loving, and you're just going to forget it. And then you're going to go to the next thing that's even greater, even better. And I went, wow, then I shouldn't be messing around so much. I should be enjoying this now. My friends now, my experiences now, the connections I have now, because it's fleeting, it changes. How did I get to be 63 so fast? I don't know how it happened. It happened in a flash. Just like my elders told me it would when I was a kid. They told me. Said it's gonna be faster than you think. You better really, it'd be like trying to tell you, you better really enjoy yourself. You better be done it, because I'm so young. It's like, I got all the time in the world, Then you think about how much time you waste worrying and being concerned, and how much of your life you literally waste with your petty concerns, as the Course calls it. What somebody thought about the dress I wore last night. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's insane. But we do it. He says the idea of sin was the greatest ego coup possible, because by making up these false rules that make us feel guilty, we spend all our time trying to feel innocent about something we never really did that didn't really matter in the first place. And then we waste years trying to undo guilt that we made up because of some rule we made up that we violated, that had nothing to do with God in the first place. It's so funny. It's so funny. It's kind of tragic too, in a weird sort of way. Yeah.
My ego's fighting me. I had some stuff come out in my writing this morning about payoff for stories I hang on to, and honest to God, I cannot remember what it was. But I know the feeling is that I saw it.
That's right.
And I went, oh shit.
That's right.
I could see that I'm hanging on to, and so you wiping the slate clean, then I lose who I am.
That's what I was saying earlier.
That's the fear.
That's the fear.
I lose who I am.
That's right.
And that is a terror.
That's right.
And I've gotten closer to that, and it's kind of funny, because I glimpse it and I go, that's it.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
And we've talked for years about if we're all one and we're separate from God, then if we go back to God, then we have our individuality, and I felt all of that, and now I see. I really feel the fear of that.
Thank you.
And what's underlying that fear of union is that loss of individuality.
Thank you.
All those stories that I make up, that's my child.
Thank you.
And I saw it, but I guess I didn't lose all of it.
What we're afraid to lose is our story.
Yes.
That's
It
what
is.
we're afraid to lose.
It
Because
is.
I am Earl Purdy, black man from the South.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to figure that out. He seems to have a past. He seems to have a story. But if I'm not him, like the Course said, if I'm not a body, what am I? Yeah, and he said that's a great question, because that opens up all kinds of possibilities. See, that's what I didn't realize, is that saying what am I means there's unlimited possibilities of what I could be that I didn't even realize, which is awesome. Somebody had to hand up over here. Yes.
And this may be too much off subject. We were. I gotta wait. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
I'll
Yes.
make a quick one. A couple of things. One is the idea about this is really the dream. That's very Aboriginal.
Is
The
it?
Aborigines in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
they, and I'm calling them something that they're not even, don't even like to be called that, but you know what I mean when I say that.
Yeah.
They have always taught that this is the dream,
That's
and
right.
we're going to wake up from this, and the other, when we go to sleep, that is what's real.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So this may be too off subject to what I'm about to say, is from what you're saying and something you said earlier, it seems that if we can raise our consciousness enough to where we are not afraid, to where we do believe in God, and we let go, and we let go of our beliefs of who we are and who we have to be and how everything has to be and how everybody else has to be, we may just disappear altogether and go to a different parallel reality where everybody's still sitting here, but nobody has any fear and everybody's happy, and then that's how we change the world. So maybe that's saying that's like, you start with yourself, and if you change yourself, that's how you change the world. And I've always been like, that seems so slow. One person at a time, really. That's excruciatingly slow, but maybe it's not because of that.
Right. It is excruciatingly slow if we think we're separate.
Yeah.
But it's instantaneous if we know we're not. That's the perfect point.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And it says that we're going to have a perception of love and wake up. It didn't say we would jump from fear to some other reality. It said that we would go from the perception of fear, like we have now, to the perception of love. And once you have the perception of love, you open to what, if you have a good time with me here in Denver, right?
Mhm.
And I say, hey, come on, go to New York with me. Even though you've never been to New York, you go, all right, because I had such a good time with you in Denver. Well, that's what the Course says. The Course in Miracles says that it would be too frightening to us and freak us out to go straight from an unhappy human being to whatever is next. That we have to go from what he calls the unhappy dream to the happy dream to awakening. So again, we're not asked to sacrifice. You could have a relationship that is completely loving. You could have whatever you do in your world that you perceive through love. So there's no sacrifice. We don't have to give this up. But I tell you what, nobody have to force me to let go of a $5 bill for somebody to put a $100 bill in my hand. I'm gonna tell you that. You know what I'm saying? So why are we clinging so hard to these identities? Because it's the only joy we know. But if somebody was really giving you something 10,000 times better, believe me, you would not be clinging to the $5 bill. But notice it didn't destroy the $5 bill. It just, you gave up the $5 bill because you wanted the $100 bill. Nobody ripped the $5 bill out of your hand, so nobody's going to rip our physical identities away from us. You can be in your physical human identity as long as you want to. Isn't it great? You can come on back over and over again as a physical identity as long as you want to. So nobody's asking you to give it up. But some of us are ready for a new movie, and some of us are ready to enjoy the physical identity and go, what's next? Some of us really are. But people who've been miserable, they think they're skipping over a stage. Just like Michael Jackson. He felt like he skipped over the childhood stage, and then he spent the rest of his life trying to relive that. That's what Spirit is saying. That's why sacrifice doesn't work. If you miss something, you're going to try to go back and get it. So if you could have a completely fulfilled experience as a human being, then you would be ready to go beyond what you think of as being a human being, because there would be no sense of loss. But most people are trying to figure out how to have a better experience as a human being. They're not trying to go beyond that. That's why classes like this are not that popular at first, because it's not talking about what the person really interested in. You're not talking about how I can get a 6-figure income tonight. And that's what I want to hear about. I'd have more people in the weight loss class. You know I would. If I told you how you can study the Course in Miracles and lose 20 pounds, this room would be there. And that's how most people get on the spiritual path. It's because they're seeking some kind of a bodily comfort, and as a result of that, they find out that there's more to this than we thought. That's how it started for me. It certainly didn't start out with me wanting to find out my true identity. It started out with me wanting to have a better house, a better car, better relationship, more money, trips, travel. I had treasure maps, all kinds of stuff. That's how it started for me. And I got all that stuff, and I still wasn't happy. So no sacrifice. Let go of the idea of sacrifice. There's nothing in this class that's saying you can't go to Hawaii.
Yes.
Okay? As a matter of fact, you probably go there fast if you did realize who you were. I got a feeling that a being that knew they was God wouldn't have a problem. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Thank you, Jesus. Like the folks saying out the church, thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Thank you for saving me, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. That's what they say in the black church. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. That you to leave my little crazy butt here by myself, not knowing anything. Out here trying to make it by myself. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. So let's try to cover a little bit more. Okay, we just got to talk about what the slate must be wiped clean so that all that remains is the reality of spirit with no filament. I like that, which means no trace of egoic consciousness left. That is not an easy thing to do. Is that we agree?
Yes.
That is not an easy thing to do. Yet it requires no effort. It's not easy to do, but it doesn't require any effort except the effort to love. Love is the great healer. Love is that which erases the imprint in the depth of the subtle soul. I don't know if some of you are old enough, but when I was young, back when I was a boy, back in the olden days, presidents talked about love. Kennedy and them talked about love. They talked about, Martin Luther King talked about, we need to love each other. We all need to be free. Everybody deserves. That's what they don't talk that way now. All the leaders talk about now is stuff like deficits, immigration, Obamacare. You hear almost absolutely not one friggin' word about we ought to love each other and care about each other and take care of each other. As a matter of fact, that's what everybody's against because they're claiming there's too much entitlement. It's really weird. It's really weird. They blast the stock market quicker than they do anything else that's happening in the world. And so I realized that my consciousness went awry. That's my consciousness. Somewhere along the line in my own consciousness, I started to lose sight of what's really valuable and what's really real. That's my consciousness that's flashed up on the TV screen every night. That's my consciousness that's saying global warming isn't happening. That's my consciousness that was Trayvon, and it's my consciousness that's George Zimmerman. I am George Zimmerman. I am Trayvon Martin. That's deep. That's deep. I am, what's the guy's name? The big peace guy that everybody follows? Is the one that...
Gandhi?
Dalai Lama?
Dalai Lama, right. And I'm Hitler.
Mm.
I'm the Ku Klux Klan and I'm the Civil Rights Marcher. It's not until you start to encompass all of it that you go beyond it. The Course calls it putting somebody outside of the circle of atonement. And I like to do that. I like to exclude some people. But he says, but what you're doing is excluding yourself. Could you walk out that door and leave your foot in here? It'd be painful. You got to take all of your body out the door. You can't I'm going to leave my arm, and I'm going to leave my leg, and I'm going to leave my thighs, but I'm going to get out of here tonight. But that's what we do when we say we want to go to the next level without including all our brothers and sisters as part of us. It's the exact same thing. Exact same thing. Oh, God. I want to love you all. Love is that which erases the imprint in the depth of the subtle soul. The patterns that you brought forth with you as a soul are like a magnet. Your patterns are like a magnet. That is, your patterns attract energy states. Your patterns attract energy states in the physical dimension experience that are resonant with those patterns. Okay, here we go. My patterns are like a magnet that attracts that to me in my physical experience that resonates with my patterns. So there's no such thing as being in a relationship with someone different from you. That's another illusion. You're not different from anybody you're in a relationship with because it was your pattern that drew them to you. They came to you with your pattern. Now, if you're hanging out with people that you like, that's relaxing. But if you think you're surrounded by everybody you don't like, then that's not too cool. But everybody that upsets you is bringing a gift. They're making sure that you see what needs to be released for you to be happy. Everybody.
Sometimes it's them.
Sometimes it's them. Or certainly the pattern in your mind that created them.
Right.
Because if not, what's going to happen? You just reproduce them in another form. But don't use that old excuse. I guess as well deal with it with this person, because if I don't deal with this person, I don't have to deal with this person anyway, so I just shouldn't go to anybody else. Guess what? If you're going to get the lesson no matter what, then you can get the lesson with that person, you can get that lesson with another person. Both of them are equal. You can stick with them and that's fine, you can go to somebody else and that's fine. That's the flip side of I just as well do it with this person. Is that you can just as well do it with another one too. What's the advantage of doing it with another one? Well, with the new person, for a little while, you'll think they're a different person. And because you think they're a different person, you'll give yourself a chance to have a different experience with them for a while. But you got about 6 months. So just 6 months, you'll start seeing your pattern. So you got 6 months to really deal with them like there's somebody new. Move out of town if you need to. You got 6 months in that new location. But I don't mind having my pattern repeated on the beach in Hawaii, as opposed to a cornfield in Iowa. There's nothing wrong with changing the set for your movie, but you're gonna have the same movie, and that's gonna be fun. So it says I'll say it again. The patterns that you brought forth with you as a soul are like a magnet. That is, they attract energy states in the physical dimension, experience, that are resonant with those patterns. Often when you say you fall in love, I love this, It is just that you have come into contact with another field of energy that happens to fit you hand in glove with the very patterns of consciousness that you carry in the depth of your being. That's a way out definition of a soulmate, isn't it? When you say you fall in love, you just said, I have come into contact. I was out last night at that party. I came in contact with another field of energy that happens to fit me hand in glove. Hey, baby, you are the most awesome field of energy that happens to fit me like hand in glove. That's all falling in love is. Falling in love means you've met the person who fits your patterns perfectly. That's all it means. It don't mean you necessarily love them. It means here is the pattern that fits my patterns perfectly. This is my perfect pattern person. I'm in love. All of my patterns, you're going to give me a chance to experience them. You fit my patterns perfectly. If my pattern is to be abandoned, you're going to abandon me perfectly. If my pattern is to be really attached, you're going to bring that pattern forward to me perfectly. And if I see you as a perfect match for my pattern, and you see me as a perfect match for your pattern, then we see that as a match made in heaven. That's what we call our soulmate. It's a perfect pattern match.
Okay, so when that happens, and you have that, ooh, I like them, you know? We have that feeling on purpose because that's how we're going to learn.
And that's also how we're going to get into the lesson. See, we won't get into the lesson unless we feel it. So it's got to be somebody that we feel attracted to, but we don't realize we're attracted to them because they're getting ready to present us with all the gifts that we could possibly receive to get past the pattern that keeps us going through anything that makes us unhappy. So don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's actually a total blessing if you're conscious.
Yeah.
Because if you're conscious, you'll do two things. You'll be loving on each other in the areas that you're totally compatible with each other, and then the ways that you're not, you'll be going, oh, this is a gift that's giving me the opportunity to see if I can go past this with you to the love that's behind it. And if you love each other, want to love each other, then you'll see the differences as an opportunity instead of seeing the differences as a reason for you to attack and separate from each other. So you'll be enjoying yourself and challenging each other to play bigger, to be more loving, to let go of your pattern. But I don't think that happens that easily unless you're with someone that there's a connection that you really feel is there beyond the patterns that you present to each other.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I do. That makes sense.
Yeah. It's like if we're gonna go through this together, at least let's like each other.
Right.
You know, or really feel like there's. In other words, let's see who we are. Let's recognize who we are beyond the patterns that's gonna come up. That there's something about you that I see the love that you are, the truth that you are, the spirit that you are, the light that you are. And that light I see in you and that light you see in me is going to take us past anything that comes up between us that would make us separate. Because we'll just see it as an opportunity to get rid of another block to us loving each other.
Okay. That's great.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's what makes relationships really powerful. And that doesn't mean just a special love relationship. That's any kind of relationship, not just a romantic relationship. It's any kind of relationship becomes another opportunity for that. So that's what we are for each other. Do y'all know that what I just read is true about us? We are here because we're the perfect patterns for each other to learn together. So we're soulmates for learning. That's beautiful when you think about it. That we came here as total gifts to each other because we are perfectly matched learning partners. Perfectly. How can you tell that we're really good matched learning partners? We're not attacking each other. That's how we know. That we sit up here learning together, listening together, but no one's attacking anyone. Perfect match. But all of us know we got stuff we got to work through. Perfect match. Perfect match. So thank you for coming tonight. Let's acknowledge ourselves. All right. Let's do the financial expression of appreciation. And thank you on the internet for doing that. You can go to my website, earlpurdy.com, and you can make a financial expression of appreciation on my website. And also, I do personal one-on-one sessions, Skype, as well as phone, where I teach you how to apply this stuff to your personal situation. And that's also on my website, as well as coaching and mentoring to save you some time as far as tackling this stuff. So I'm available for all of that, as well as any good parties you know about that you want to tell me about. I'm open to that too.
Hey Earl?
Yes.
I brought a card for Judy, who's in rehab right now.
Oh, great.
And,
How's she doing?
Tatiana, do you still have that
You
card?
know what, I put it behind
So if
me.
anybody wants to sign it,
Okay,
I'll
Judy
hang out
and
afterwards.
Bobbin had a operation. You may not know her, but she was a
long.
long-time student coming here, so even if we don't physically know her, it would be great to send some good healing energy out to her because she just had
Thank you so much.
a symbolic willingness gesture to be healed called working on her body. So we want to support that.
And by the way, she told me you called and she was touched.
Well, Judy's been like,
I know.
she's been.
I said, well, what do you expect?
That's
me to
right,
call?
yeah.
I know, I was like,
I didn't
what?
even know what was going on. That, you know, and that's another thing too. It's easier for people to support you if they know what's happening, what's actually going on. It's like, we said we don't believe in telepathy, but we expect people to read our minds. And it's like, I don't know you're going in the hospital to have something done if you don't tell me. You know what I mean? So I know we're stoic and we love to always handle things by ourselves. And then we get upset because nobody visited me and nobody called. They didn't know you were even going through anything. You know, be amazed. And so I'm glad that you got to love Judy. Judy's been a total and is a total blessing in my life.
It's amazing.
You know, yeah.
I'm
She
not
just drove up one day and said, I'm gonna go take you to buy a set of tires. I said, all right. You know, let's go, you know. Sometimes, you know, help at those levels is really nice,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at the physical level. So we had a class, I'll be at the class. I don't have any more trips planned at this point until September. So I'll be here throughout the rest of the summer teaching, unless something changes. But, let's go deep. Let's make this a summer of really going deep into the truth. And I got some things that I wanna do that introduce some more helpful stuff into what we do also. So I'm excited.
Hey, can I make a request real quick? I'm looking for a place to stay tonight in like downtown Denver, I don't know, somewhere nearby. Couch to surf on, anything, just.
Okay. If there's anybody that's willing and open to giving our sister a sofa or anything else to sleep on tonight, that would be wonderful. So just let her know after class that you're willing to do that. I'm gonna do that last paragraph one more time before we go out. We got 5 minutes.
My trumpet left.
Huh?
The trumpet left.
Where did the trumpet go?
Yeah,
She's
I
gone.
know,
The
she's
trumpet is
gone.
gone. What happened to the trumpet? This is the point of great challenge. You ask yourself, what would I be committed to? Am I going to be committed to love? Am I going to be committed to fear? Because it doesn't matter what physical situations or circumstances you create, you're either going to give yourself love through it, or you're going to give yourself fear through it. So you need to ask yourself, do I want love or fear? Who am I? What am I? Who am I? What am I? I'm asking of you. Who are you? What are you? Where did you come from? What is life? What is God? How can there be anything at all? Who are you? What are you? Where did you come from? What is life? What is God? How can there be anything at all? Who are you? What are you? Where did you come from? What is life? What is God? Who are you? What are you? Where did you come from? Who are you? What are you? Where did you come from? What is life? What is God? How can there be anything at all? What is life? What is God? Who am I? What am I? Do you want to experience love? Do you want to experience fear? If you meet somebody, you form a relationship, what's actually happened is that you are dismantling the blocks. Every relationship gives you the opportunity to dismantle the blocks. Every relationship is a gift. Even the relationship that's a challenge for you. Even the relationship that sometimes makes you angry and upset. It is a great gift because it's giving you an opportunity to dismantle the structures of your consciousness that produce the patterns, that produce the physical experience that you're going through right now. Woo! You are the holy child of God. You are not your story. 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 You're the one that created the story. You're the one that's experiencing the story, but you are not the story. Let go of your story. This is not an easy thing to do, but it requires no effort except the effort to love. Love is the great healer. Love is the great healer. Love is the great healer. Love is that which erases the imprint in the depth of the subtle soul. Often when you say you're falling in love with anything, with anybody, for any reason, it just means you've come into contact with another field of energy that fits you hand in glove with the very patterns of consciousness that you carry in the depth of your being. See that person as a gift. See that person as a gift. See that person as a gift that's making you aware of something within yourself that you need to know about in case you need to let it go. Or in some cases, they're making you aware of patterns in yourself that you want to embrace and experience more of and extend more of. So the relationship can just as well make you aware of the wonderful patterns in yourself as it can make you aware of the patterns you need to let go of. So see every relationship in your life as a gift. Tonight, see every relationship in your life as a gift. That means any relationship in your life is a gift. So you are hanging out with fields of energy. You're sitting in a room with fields of energy.